Get your exclusive items from JP Fans. $86 coupon with 50% off Mercury items. Link in the description. Oh yeah.
Hello, my name is Dr. Shamos, and today we're gonna have our OP16.5 Katakuri guide. Now usually these types of guides do cover a variety of topics, but because this is a guide focused on OP16.5, which will be a short meta because we are closing in on OP17, I decided to make this a more easygoing guide with the objective to introduce the deck to new players to help them find a solid base to stand on. This guide will not provide gameplay in it simply because I already have a lot of other videos with the sole purpose to showcase gameplay. So I decided to make this a more theoretical guide, and also thanks to this it will be a shorter guide, which I think makes it more digestible for viewers instead of having a 1 hour long video. As always, timestamps in the description in case you want to come back to a specific portion of the video or want to skip portions that you are not so much interested in. Let's now look at the table of contents that we will be discussing in this video. Leader effect / history. This portion is to talk about the leader effect, his pros and cons, and to talk a little bit about the strategy that used to be. This is because I think it is worth talking about and explain why some cards are being played and the evolution of the Katakuri strategy. Deck core. This is simply to showcase the absolute necessary cards that every Katakuri player should have, why they are core and what they do. Tech cards. This portion is to showcase every single possible tech card, or at least I hope I don't forget any card, that you can add to your deck to help you with certain matchups or help you with your playstyle. Decklist, where I will simply present to you my current decklist. This is to give you an example in case you are a new player and don't have your own decklist yet and just want to try something. I will explain why I'm playing the cards that I'm playing and justify their ratios as well. Core strategy. After we have our deck explained, we can finally jump into our core strategy. Here we'll talk about our combo lines and startup, what you usually want to do at the beginning of the game, should you go first or second when winning the die roll. Starting hand. After we look at the decklist and strategy, we can finally look at our starting hand, where we will cover essential cards that have to be on your starting hand and are worth mulligan for, to more simple additions to your hand that you are right down don't need it, but are always a pleasant surprise to see. Now that we covered what we'll be talking about, let's jump right into it. Leader effect / history. Katakuri's leader effect is a pretty simple one. When you attack with your leader or being attacked, you can send one Don back to your Don deck, look at the top card of your opponent's deck, and then get plus 1k power for this battle only. Although the power up is pretty good, the real value of this leader effect is to be able to see what is your opponent's next draw. As a first tip, every time you attack or are attacked and decide to use this effect, try to keep track of every card you see with it. This will make you able to keep track of your opponent's hand components, such as bricks, which will make you be able to make more optimal swings with your board, and tech cards that could punish you along the line, making you able to dodge certain traps that your opponent tries to play on you, and even understand which could be his most optimal play, given that you are seeing pretty much some of his hand later in the game. This leader effect used to have another purpose, and this is where talking about the history of the deck becomes a bit relevant. The deck used to need a very specific hand and a very specific starting combo line. To even have a chance at winning, you would have to use your leader effect and then use your other cards effect, which were mostly effects that required you to guess the cost of the top card of your opponent's deck to ramp on, and by the way, opponents sometimes had ways to manipulate the top card somehow, so after using your leader effect they would draw it and then you would go down one Don with no ramp, because guessing the top card was pretty much impossible to do after that, leaving you one Don down, which could mess up your entire curve. You also needed your leader's effect to maybe remove some of your opponent's board and even to use counter events. Needing to do this, as well as not having that great consistency to find your very specific starting combo line, was a big weakness of the deck. Thanks to the buffs of the new starter deck, pretty much all of the weaknesses are removed, or at least you now have cards that help a lot of those weaknesses. Most of your main cards automatically ramp you Dawn instead of having to guess the top card. Removal became more about sending Dawn back to the Dawn deck, and we got searches to help with the consistency of the deck, and one that helps defend ourselves as well at that. So now is a great time to start playing Katakuri, and I'm glad you chose this deck. It is one of the most fun decks I have ever played, and now is stronger than ever. Deck core. Here we have our deck core. Now I'll be explaining from the top left card to the bottom right card, and I'll be explaining every single one of the effects and why every single one of these cards is considered core of the deck. First and foremost, in the top row we have our searchers, starting with Charlotte Pudding. Her effect is on play, look at the top 5 cards of your deck and choose one cost 2 or greater Big Mom Pirates type card and put it in your hand. Then you place the rest in the bottom deck in any order that you choose. This is a very simple searcher, not only that she has an active main, Dawn -1, you may look at the top card from your opponent's deck. This is not as used as it was before, but it may still be used if you're using some deck cards that require you to guess the cost of the top card of your opponent's deck. Now, she's a very simple searcher, there's no need to explain. Next is Charlotte Brûlée. Now, Charlotte Brûlée has a very specific advantage that places her on core. Not only is she a searcher, on play you look at top 3 cards from your deck and reveal up to one Big Mom Pirates type card and add it to your hand. Then, as per usual, you place the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. Now, she only looks at the top 3 cards, but she's a 2k counter event, which means she can 2k counter, sorry, which means you can use her as a searcher or as a defensive tool to get out of some swings. So she's definitely core at 4. Both Charlotte Pudding and Brûlée are very core at playing 4 copies in your deck. Next, the last searcher is we are going to claim the One Piece. This is a 1 cost event that, on main, if your leader has the Animal Kingdom Pirates or Big Mom Pirates type, look at 5 cards from the top of your deck, reveal up to 1 Animal Kingdom Pirates or 1 Big Mom Pirates type card other than this one and add it to your hand. Then it also has another advantage, which is a trigger. If your opponent attacks you and you take the life and this card comes on top of your life, you can actually activate your main effect as soon as it comes from your life, which means you can activate the effect for free without spending the 1 Dawn. Now, these are the 3 searchers. Usually people play 4 of Pudding, 4 of Brûlée, and 4 of We're Going to Claim the One Piece, but I've seen some variations of decks going down on the copies of We're Going to Claim the One Piece, but usually people play at least 3 copies of this event. Now let's go to the bottom row, which is our core characters. First and foremost, we're gonna start with our 5 cost Katakuri. He is a 5 cost, 7k power, and your turn, once per turn, when a Dawn card is returned from your field to the Dawn deck and your leader has the Big Mom Pirates, you actually add up 2 Dawn and rest them from your Dawn deck. So this is pretty much your very easy ramp. Every time you swing with your leader, you go down 1 Dawn, this will trigger your 5 cost Katakuri, which will give you 2 Dawn. So this is actually the easiest ramp possible that you can have on your deck. Not only that, he has another effect, which is on KO, play up to 1 character with 8k power or less from your hand. Which means if your opponent KOs this character, you can play any other purple character that has 8k or less power. Usually, he either replaces himself with himself again or with the 8 cost Katakuri, which is the next card. The 8 cost Katakuri is 8 cost, 8k power, he is a blocker, and at the end of your turn, you can set up 2 of your Big Mom type characters with 3k power or more back active, and then add up to 1 of your Dawn from your Dawn deck to the field as rested. Now, these 2 categories are definitely 4 of, there is no discussion about it. These 2 are your main cards for the deck, you need to have 4 of each. These 2 are the most important cards for the deck, and both of them combined are extreme power and you need them. You just need them. 8 cost Katakuri in itself is the most important card, I would say, because of its restand ability. Not only that, he gives you a Dawn back and he is a blocker, so he's overall your ace card, but the 2 of them are very important at 4, okay? Next, we have the 7 cost Charlotte Pudding. Now, on play, she's a 7 cost, 5k power. On play, -2 Dawn. If your leader has the Big Mom Pirates type and your opponent has 6 or more Dawn cards on the field, you draw 2 cards, then you can play up to 1 of your Big Mom Pirates type character with the power of 6k power to 8k power from your hand. Now, she's an incredible combo piece for the deck. She's definitely 4 of Katakuri, both categories, and Pudding are played at 4 with no questions about it. This Pudding is incredible, especially when going first, which is usually when your opponent is already at 6 Dawn. You play her for 7 Dawn, you go -2 Dawn, then you draw 2, and then you get to play the 8 cost Katakuri right away, because you can play a character from 6k power to 8k power, which means you pretty much are playing 2 characters for the cost of 1. Not only that, she's a 5k power, so she usually can swing onto the enemy leader or board if needed to. Also, another very big advantage is, if you mind what I'm saying, I say you draw 2, then play the character, which means, let's imagine we don't have the 8 cost Katakuri in our hand, and we only have Pudding. If we play Pudding, go -2 Dawn, draw 2 cards, if in those 2 cards that we draw, we get the 8 cost Katakuri, then we can play him, which makes the Pudding even more powerful. It's because you draw first, and then you play whatever is the best option that you have in your hand. So absolutely, these 3, I would say, are very important at 4 and are definitely the strongest cards you have. Especially the categories. I'll keep my focus on the categories. Remember, these 2 are incredibly essential. Your deck does not work without them 2, but Pudding will be a very close third, okay? And finally, to complete the decor, we have our new 10 cost Lin. Now, she's a 10 cost, 12k power, which is very big, and on play, you don -4, you may trash 1 card from your hand, add up 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life cards, then up to one of your opponent's characters, base power becomes 0 during this turn. This is an insane boss monster and an insane card to have. So, pretty much, you play her, you -4 Dawn, and you're actually spending 1 card from hand to heal, and then any other of your opponent's characters becomes 0 power. Does not lose power, becomes 0 power. This will have some saying in the interaction mechanics of the and rules of One Piece TCG, so you need to focus on becomes 0. The power becomes 0, okay? Now, she's an incredible boss card. You obviously want to play her. Usually you play 2 per game, maybe, but she's an incredible boss card, and now you can see why both categories are incredibly important, because this Lily is sending 4 Dawn back to the Dawn deck, and both of your categories give you 3 Dawn overall, so you're pretty much only losing 1 Dawn for this insane effect of Lily. Not only that, remember, she's 12k power, so she's gonna be swinging hard next turn. She's healing you, she can potentially remove any character on your opponent's board because they become 0, which means even Brule that you see on the top row with 2k power may swing onto this guy and just take him away. And she then becomes an insane boss monster, very hard to deal with because she's a 12k power. This is the core deck. On to the tech cards. Tech cards. Here are the tech cards. Now, I know there are a lot of tech cards and you can't probably read the effects from here. So, once again, I'll be telling you the effects one by one, reading them out loud. Once again, we'll be going from top left to bottom right, card by card, and I'll explain to you while these cards are potential cards to complete your deck, why some people play one card over another, and some cards here are budget options, so let's get into it. First and foremost, we have our complementing 2Ks. We have Daifuku, which is a very simple vanilla. He's a 6 cost, 7k power, 2k counter. Why do people play it? Why do I play it actually? Spoiler alert, I play this guy. Because he's a 7k power, which means your 7 cost Pudding can play him as well. So in case you whiff your 5 cost category or your 8 cost category, if Daifuku is there, you can at least complete your board a little bit with Daifuku. That's why he's a very good card and a very popular card at that. Usually people play 4 of him or don't play him at all. Next, we have the Charlotte Pudding. Now, she's also obviously a 2k counter. She is a blocker, so she can add some defense to your deck if you need to. She's a 4 cost, 4k power, and on play, if your Dawn cards on the field are equal or less than your opponent's Dawn cards on their field, then you add 1 card from your Dawn deck and rest it. So she's pretty much gonna ramp you if you go down too much on Dawn, but usually people play her as an extra blocker if you need to, you know, She's a 4 cost, so she's not that expensive. She's a 2k counter, so she's very good defensively, and some people decide to play her. Then we have Baron, Tamago, and Peckham's. They are a 3 cost 4k power character, 2k counter, and when attacking you go -1 Dawn, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 2k base power or less. Now, this card is a very good combo with our 10 cost Lilin that we mentioned earlier. Because she makes the original power become 0, it means that Baron and Tamago can actually swing and just KO anybody. This will usually help you if you play your Lilin and then you swing with Baron and Tamago while the opponent character that Lilin targeted is active. Since you cannot swing into them, then Baron, Tamago, and Peckhams will take care of it by just KOing them. This is why people like to play this card sometimes, because of the combo that it has with the 10 cost Lilin. Next is Uzohashi and Nola. Now, these two are not specific to our strategy, they are very good generic purple cards. 2k counter purple cards, to be more exact. Uzohashi is on play if you have 8 or more Dawn. You may rest one of your opponent's characters with 5 cost or less. Usually this is used to bypass some blockers in today's meta, so you can finish game, or you can take care of a body that would be protected by that said blocker. Very good generic purple card. A lot of people use him. He is not searchable, but very powerful nonetheless. And then we have Nola, which in my opinion is one of the best generic, if not the best actually, generic purple 2k counter card. Now, the effect is very simple. If you have a character with base power of say 7k or less that would be removed from the field by your opponent's effect, you may trash one Dawn back to your Dawn deck and it just negates it. Like, you just negate. Not only that, this is not once per turn, which means no matter how many times your opponent tries to remove a 7k power character from the field, you can just protect it infinitely if you have the Dawn to spend it to. Nola is very popular to play because of our 5 cost category. Now, he's a 7k power, and yes, I know, if he's KO'd, he can replace himself, but usually this is for cards that do not KO him, that just remove him to the bottom deck or trash him. There are cards that instead of saying KO, which is a specific word, say trash. And Nola can protect from those extra effects. Even if you're not playing to play Nola on your deck, I still suggest buying 4 of. Very cheap card and very good into every other potential purple deck. Just saying. So yeah, very strong card. These are the complementary 2Ks that you can play. Choose the ones that you prefer to play. Now let's go into our mid-range tech cards. First, we have Sparrow and Cracker. First, Sparrow. He's a 5 cost, 7k power. Activate main once per turn. You may trash one card from your hand. Declare a cost of your choice and then reveal the top card of your opponent's deck. If the declared cost is the same as the cost of the card revealed, then you draw 1 card back and add 1 Dawn from your Dawn deck and set it as active. So, Sparrow was incredibly popular at the beginning of the purple category strategy on OP11. He was incredibly essential because he was one of the few ways that you had to ramp Dawn or keep healthy on your Dawn, and he still kinda is. He still is a very strong character. Not only that, because you are trashing a card and drawing a card, usually he's very good to cycle. Unfortunately, he did drop a little bit in popularity simply because of the power creep, but still a very good card and still is a fairly popular card. So if you want to play him, obviously go ahead. Next, we have the Charlotte Crocker, which is a much simpler effect. On play, if your leader has Big Mom Pirates type in it, add up to 1 Dawn card from your Dawn deck and rest it. Then KO up to one of your opponent's characters with cost 2 or less. So Cracker is a much simpler effect. You simply play him, he ramps you a Dawn, simple, and then you can KO one of your opponent's smaller characters. Not only that, his stat line is not as good as Sparrow, but to compensate this, he has 1k counter, which means he's not a brick, which can be a factor on deciding which one you want to play. There are people that play both. If you want to play both, obviously you need to make the space for it, which is fine. Now let's go. Next is our tech cards. Our tech cards are combo extenders or simply budget options. First we have our 2-cost Katakuri. Now his effect is very simple. Activate main, you may trash this character. If your leader has the Big Mom Pirates type in it, play up to one of your Charlotte Katakuris from your hand that has the costs of 3 or greater up to the Dawn that your opponent has on their field. So, how does this work? It's very, in text it's very complicated, but you play this card for 2 costs, correct? If your opponent has 8 Dawn on their field, you can simply trash this Katakuri and play the 8 cost Katakuri. If your opponent has 5 Dawn, then instead of the 8 cost, you may just play this for 2 costs and then replace it for the 5 cost Katakuri. Pretty much, you can play your ace characters for just 2 Dawn, depending on the Dawn of your opponent on the other side. This guy is a pretty good combo extender, meaning if you play Pudding and then you in the next turn you want to play another 8 cost Katakuri, but you don't want to pay the 8th Dawn to play him, you can play this guy and normally he will replace himself with a Katakuri very easily because your opponent should be at the 8th Dawn then. Not only that, if you lose either your 5 cost Katakuri or your 8 cost Katakuri pretty early in the game, this guy will help you build back that board pretty easily by playing him and then replacing himself with the Katakuris. So very strong card, very popular. There are some people that do cut him, but still a very popular card. Usually people play it at 2, 3, sometimes maybe 4, but 4 is very unpopular. Usually it's 2 or 3, okay? And next we have Adana, which is another tech. This is usually a budget option of a card that we're going to be talking about next. But she's an extra blocker. Her effect is very simple. If you have any other characters that have Big Mom type on the board, then she becomes a blocker. So she's pretty much a very chump blocker, a very weak blocker, but can be annoying because if your opponent has no way to rest her, KO her, etc., you can pretty much, they swing like a 10k power, let's imagine. You can just block with her like for free, you know. So she's not a popular tech card, but she's a popular budget option of a card. I'll be referencing this once I get to that card. Next, we have our 2 cards that are making our late game stronger, along with the 10 cost Lillian that we saw on the core deck. This is the 9 cost Lillian. She's a 9 cost, 9k power. On play, -1 Dawn. Trash 1 card from your hand. Add up to 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. And then you may choose one of your opponent's 6 cost or less character and place him on the bottom or top of their life. Now, this is a very strong card. Normally, just like 10 cost Lily, you are trashing a card from hand. To recover a life, you can actually remove the board of your opponent, as long as it is 6 cost or less. Now, usually, I know people would think at first, why would I want to give my opponents an extra life? Now, this deck is very good at controlling tempo because of this card. If you place 1 cost 6 or less on your opponent's life, usually you place them on the bottom. It means that once you get to the very bottom of your life, you can choose when to give that card back to his hand. If you control your tempo, you're only giving lives, the lives of your opponent to their hand when you want to, which means you pretty much are removing that card from the field at all, and it only reaches your opponent's hand when it no longer matters, if you time your swings nicely, okay? She's a very strong, especially against mid-range matchups. Mid-range matchups, I mean, there are decks where their strategy focused on playing cards that have low to mid cost and do not play bigger bodies. Usually they play characters up to 6 cost and try to swarm the board with those characters, and Lillian can help you control a little bit of their tempo by removing one of them from the field, and not only that, they are giving you a life back, which then means these mid-range are usually more aggressive on their strategy, so having an extra life means you can probably take that life more easily without having to counter as much. So yeah, very strong. Next is the 10 cost Lily. This is the 10 cost Rush Lily. She's a 10 cost, 12k power. If your leader has the type of Big Mom Pirates in it, then she wins Rush, which means since you're a purple category that has Big Mom Pirates, she always has Rush. Then, on your opponent's attack, once per turn, you can send 5 Dons back to your Don deck. You may declare a cost at your choosing, then reveal the top card from your opponent's deck. If the top card cost is the same as the declared cost, your leader has plus 2k power for the rest of the turn. So, how does this work? Your opponent swings at you. You send 1 Don for your leader effect, this is to see the top of their card, and then you send the extra 5 Don from this Lily and declare the cost of the card that you just saw. This means you're getting 1k power from your leader effect, and then you're getting 2k power for the rest of the turn. Your leader becomes a 7k power leader for the rest of the turn. This is a very strong defensive effect. Not only that, she's pretty good offensively because she has a rush. So she's an all-around good card, obviously. And yeah, so usually you need to send 6 Don, not 5, because you usually need to use your leader effect to make sure that you don't whiff the effect. People usually either play 9 cost Lily, 10 cost Lily, may play 1, or they may play both of them in the deck. It's their choosing. If you want to play both of them, if you think they are very strong cards, you need to find the space for them both. To be honest, I do prefer the 9 cost Lily just a bit more. In this meta, if history serves me right, usually sometimes they alternate between the two. There are some metas where I believe the 9 cost Lily is better, and there are some metas where the 10 cost Rush Lily is better. But you can actually find a space for both. I've seen people play both. It is pretty common, so if you like both, then you can go ahead and play both. Now let's go to our events. First and foremost, we have a removal event, which is Hakai. It is a 6 cost, and its main effect is Dawn -2. If your leader's type has Animal Kingdom or Big Mom Pirates, KO up to 2 of your opponent's cost 6 or lower characters. So once again, just like 9 cost Lily, this is helping you with the mid-range decks that are very aggro. But for 6 Dawn and minusing 2 Dawn, which by the way, you're gonna get them back because of your 5 cost category, you can remove 2 of these mid-range bodies. It is extremely popular to play this at 2. Sometimes you see it at 1, but usually it's either 1 or 2, more popular at 2. Next, we have Mama Ragan. Now, remember when I told you Anana was a budget option for a specific card that is very expensive? That card is Mama Ragan. Mama Ragan is an insane buff to this deck. If you can at least buy 2, I would suggest and strongly advise, but he's like pretty much a staple at 4. The reason why he's not in the core of the deck is because it's not a Big Mom Pirates card, and not only that, it's a very expensive card, and so usually, sometimes because this guide is for beginner players, sometimes beginners don't really want to spend that money on a card, especially 4 copies of that card. But if you do have the money, if you truly love category, then this is a 4 of, no-brainer. What its effect now? It's a 0 cost event, and a main effect is Dawn -2. You may rest one of your 5k power or less. Sorry, let me repeat this. Main effect, you Dawn -2, and then you rest one of your opponent's characters with the power of 5k or less. Now, this is extremely strong with who? You guessed it. With your new 10 cost Lily, the one that we saw on the deck core. You play the Lily, make any of your opponent's characters 0, then you play Mama Ragan because you're not actually paying. Let's imagine, let's go by this example. You rest 10 Dawns to play the Lily. You go -4, you get some Dawn back hopefully with your 2 categories. Then you can go extra -2 Dawn to play this event, to rest the character that you just made 0 power, and then you have an easy swing into it and just remove it. This is a very strong card. Not only that, this card has another effect on the main, which is when you use for the main effect, you treasure for the effect, that's fine, and then you draw a card again. So it's a card that replaces herself. It's insane. You pretty much are playing a card for free, resting any card on your opponent's field thanks to the 10 cost Lily, and then this card replaces itself. It's insane. Not only that, it has a counter event on top of that. The counter event, it's pretty simple. You trash this card and up to one of your characters or leaders gets 1k power. Then, if you have 6 or less Dawn, you also draw 1 card again. So if you're low on Dawn, this card, once again, replaces itself as a counter. Most of the time, you only get this draw if you use this card as a 1k counter on the very beginning. Other than that, again, it's not a brick. It gives you 1k counter no matter what. The only thing that matters is if you're at 6 Dawn, this card replaces herself or not. If you're using on the main effects, then it always replaces itself, and you're usually always using this card on the main effect. Next event is the 0 cost event, Divine Departure. Now, it has a main effect, which is you may rest 5 of your Dawn if you have one given Dawn card to any one of your characters or leaders. Then you can select up to one of your opponent's characters and give it minus 8k power during this turn. So pretty much what you need to do is attach a Dawn, then activate the effect of Divine Departure, rest extra 5 Dawn, and then one of your opponent's characters becomes loses 5k power, 8k power, sorry. This is a very strong main effect. Obviously, it's not as strong as your 10 cost Lily, but usually it's used for its counter event, which is you may trash 1 card from your hand. Up to one of your leader or character gains 3k power during this battle. What do you usually use this for? If you have a brick in your hand and you have this card, what you can do is you trash the Divine Departure plus that brick, and then you get 3k counter. This is so you can transform your bricks into counter, into defensive power. This is why this card is extremely popular, almost a staple at least 2 copies. I've seen some people play 1 copy, I've seen most people play 2 copies, and I've seen some people play 3 copies. Next event is a budget option for Mama Ragan, which is the 5k counter event. I'm gonna say the name because this is a guide, but I hate this name, it's a very long name. When 2 men are fighting, the last thing I need is some half-assed assistance. Now, this is a 1 cost event that only has a counter effect. The counter effect is you may declare a cost, reveal the top card from your opponent's deck. If the revealed card has the same cost as the declared cost that you set, then up to one of your leaders or characters gets 5k power during this battle. So, just like the 10 cost Rush Lily, you want to be using this with your leader effect. So your opponent attacks, you use your leader effect, send 1 Dawn back to your Dawn deck, then you rest 1 Dawn for this event, declare the cost of the card that you just saw with your leader effect, and then you're getting 1k power from your leader effect, which is, so your leader is at 6k, then you get 5k from this event, and which means your leader goes up to 11k. This combined with the Rush Lily could stop pretty much any swing. If you combine the 3 effects of leader, the 5k counter event, and the 10 cost Rush Lily, I mean, you can stop a very big swing, very big swing. And lastly, we have another budget option for Mama Ragan, which is Slow Beam Sword. It's a 2 cost counter event, which the effect is you Dawn -1, give up to one of your character or leaders 2k power for the battle, then rest up to one of your opponent's characters. Now, this is a cost of 2, but the fact that you can rest one of your opponent's characters is insanely strong. Your opponent swings 5 just to test the waters, you know, he swings 5 onto you, and he has a 10k power character on the other side. You can quite literally just use Slow Beam Sword, and then counter this 5k power attack that you just that your opponent just threw at you, and then rest that 10k power character, and that character cannot swing for that turn. Insane event. Now, this event has dropped in popularity because it's a 2 cost, and it has become a bit harder to have 2 Dawn up during your opponent's turn. These were all the tech cards. If you're not seeing a tech card that you like, it is simply because they are not very popular, and so I decided not to include them here. I have some cards in my mind, but I will not mention them because, again, not popular, so I'm not gonna mention them. Deck list. Now, here we have my deck list. Now, this is this is just a deck list for an example. You may manipulate the cards and play the cards that you like. this is what I'm currently playing, and it's working very well. This is a deck list that has been evolving for the longest time with trial and error, and some of my subscribers and debating in the Discord which cards are good, what should I include. So the deck had a very natural evolution, and I'm fine with the deck list I have right now. This is the deck list. Now let's start off once again from the top left card to the bottom right card. First and foremost, we have our 3 searchers. I'm playing 4 of each for the most consistency. Then I'm playing 4 of the Charlotte Daifuku. This is because I don't like when my 7 cost pudding whiffs, and so with Daifuku at 4, it means it may once every 10 times it may whiff the Charlotte pudding. Usually you should only drop pudding and play her when you already have a target for her. Usually, hopefully, this target will be either of the Katakuris, but if not, hopefully it'll be Daifuku. If not, let's just hope pudding will draw 2, and on those 2 we can see either of these 3 targets. Any of these 3 targets. But yeah, Daifuku is just to keep the core strategy at its utmost consistency. Not only that, it's a 2k counter, so it helps us defensively, and hopefully it's the only time we need to use him is as defensive tool, because we want to spam Katakuris and Linlings. But yeah, very strong card. Then I'm playing 3 cost Charlotte Pudding. I'm currently playing this blocker pudding just as an extra blocker. I'm playing 3 of her, but I am thinking about replacing her with Nola. This is just because against some matchups they can remove my 5 cost Katakuri, and with Nola, it's, you know, we can protect it. It's not searchable, but I've been using this Charlotte Pudding almost solely as a 2k counter. It is searchable, but again, I'm thinking about removing her for Nola, but for now we are presenting my current deck list, which is with the Pudding. She's a searchable 2k as well as a blocker, and if you're 2 down on Dawn, she does actually ramp us 1 Dawn. Next, we have our tech cards. Currently, I'm only playing 2 cost Katakuri. He's just to extend our combos to try and drop more Katakuris on the field, or if we lose our Katakuris too early on, then he can make us come back and rebuild the board state. Very good. Next, I'm playing 3 Charlotte Crackers. Now, this is... I decided to not play Paraspero because he was a brick, and this deck is already super bricky, and so I decided to go with a simpler effect, which is the Cracker. He cannot be played with the 7 cost pudding like Paraspero, but at least he has 1k counter. Not only that, his own play just ramps us a Dawn. Very simple, and he can actually help us into some matchups. For example, against Goofy, in case you don't know, that's the red, blue Luffy from Impel Down that just came out in OP16. That plays a lot of 2 cost cards. Cracker can at least KO one of them. Or against Purple NL, that also plays a lot of 1 cost characters that then have extra effects. Cracker can help us out by KOing one of them. So pretty good. Not only that, he's a 4 cost. He can help us when Go is second, which we'll be talking about in the core strategy segment of the video. So yeah, I'm playing 3. Usually we don't want to see it that much unless we're going second. And also I only found space for 3. So yeah, right now he's at 3. Then we have our 5 cost Katakuri at 4. No need for explanation. Absolutely core of a card. Then we have our 7 cost Pudding. Again, 4 of, no need explanation. Then 8 cost Katakuri at 4. No need, no explanation again. Then we have our 9 cost Linling. She's at 2 just to help with, just to have extra late game bodies and to help us into those mid-range aggro decks. Again, Purple NL can be a target, although it's not that optimal of a target matchup. Then we have Goofy, that is a good target. She has more use there. And we can also play her really well into the red-green Luffy that came in OP13, which is still very popular. So yeah, she helps us. Even if you cannot remove anything on your opponent's field, she does still revive a life, which usually the card that we're discarding from hand is a brick. So we're discarding a brick to add a card to the top of the life, so we can take a bit more swings without missing it, to be honest, without really getting punished because it's an extra swing that we can take. Then I'm playing the 4 copies of the 10 cost of the new Lily, because it's the ultimate boss monster. You always love to play her. She always has a window to be played, to be honest. But just to give you an example of what people like to do, some people play 3 of these 10 cost Lily, then 2 of the 9 cost Lily, and then 1 of the 10 cost Rush Lily. So they have more variety of Lilies and can adapt into more situations. I decided to just play 4 of the 10 cost new Lily from the ST. It's simpler, she's very good, very insane, and so I just kept it simple, and I'm playing 4 of her, very strong. Then, let's go to our events. I'm playing 2 Divine Departure. This is to help us transform our bricks into counter, or to help us defensively overall, or using its main effect. If I really need to, this is a last case scenario, last hope case scenario, to be honest. Then we have the strongest tech card here, Mamaragan. I'm playing 4. I actually bought it when it was very cheap, so I'm playing 4 because I was building the purple NL, so I have the 4. So here it is. For Mamaragan, no need to explain why it's very strong. Last card is Hakai. I'm playing 2 of. This is to help into, again, mid-range aggro decks. I've already talked about Goofy, which is the blue-green Luffy. I've talked about red-green Luffy. This card, Hakai, can kill that matchup instantly, by the way, if played right. And against NL, it can also help if they're playing, if they play a lot of small bodies, or if they play the dog, Holly. If they play in Holly, this can help a lot as well, by the way. Just an extra tip, you only play Hakai after you set up your board state. Do not try to play this without having your categories on the field. Just a tip for you, because if you play this without having your category set up, you're gonna be losing a lot of tempo, okay? This is my deck list. Now let's get into the core strategy. Now that we know what our cards and leader do, we can talk about strategy of the deck and what it wants to pull off. First, let's talk about die roll. Do you want to go first or second when Kata wins the die roll? The answer is actually both. Thanks to the new buffs on Katakuri and its consistency, we can focus on stealing what would be best for our opponent. But if you are not confident or simply don't know what the opponent usually takes, on the other side, going first is the safe option. Your starting combo is pretty much the same when going first or second. Your first objective with Katakuri deck is to set up a board that can swing and regen Dawn for all of your other effects that would be costly. Assuming we are going first, our first and second turn is to search if we need for our missing pieces and maybe swinging into face second turn for a first blood. Then on our third turn, with 5 Dawn, we play our 5 cost Katakuri and then swing with leader and use its ability. This will send one of your Dawn back to the Dawn deck, but thanks to our recently played Katakuri, he will give you 2 Dawn back, meaning that by just swinging with leader, you are actually ramping a Dawn. The next turn, you should be at 8 Dawn. This will let you play the 7 cost Pudding to draw 2 and then play our 8 cost Katakuri. This will set up an extensive board with our 2 strongest cards. Even if you don't find the 7 cost Pudding, your 5 cost Katakuri still ramped you 1 Dawn. So if you don't have the 7 cost Pudding in hand to play with the 8 cost Katakuri, you can just play the 8 cost Katakuri normally, because you have the Dawn for it. 7 cost Pudding is a great card that replaces herself and the target you played with her in hand with a draw 2, but setting up the 2 Katakuris is always the most important priority. This is because setting up the 2 Katakuris not only makes sure you have the best Dawn regeneration by giving you 3 Dawn at a time, it also helps you enter the loop state. The loop state is something that Katakuri does since OP11. By setting up the 8 cost Katakuri, you can now swing with 2 characters, usually this includes the 8 cost Katakuri himself, and then restand both bodies at the end of the turn and regen 1 Dawn. This makes it very annoying for your opponent to deal with your board, because you are restanding it and he cannot simply swing into the rested characters. He has to use extra resources from hand to remove them while they are active. And since 8 cost Katakuri is a blocker, restanding him means you also use him to defend some attacks, which makes it a deadly offensive and defensive combination. This loop state only became stronger with the new 5 cost Katakuri. Now you can swing with both categories, restand them to make sure you keep your most optimal Dawn regeneration engine online, But even if your opponent uses the extra resources to remove these two, if they KO the 5 cost Katakuri, he can just replace himself, which means only very specific cards from very specific colors can remove him without triggering his effect. After playing this combo line, you now set up your board and Dawn Regeneration engine. After this, you need to look at your opponent's board state, hand size, and even overall matchup strategy, and use your late game cards and events to deal with the matchup. You usually rely on Hakai, 9 cost Lily, and 10 cost Lily to deal with such board state. Or you can play aggressive if the situation calls for it, and attach Dawn to your characters and swing to either face or board depending what you need and the game state. The going second combo line is pretty much the same, only with one small change. When you go second, you start with 2 Dawn. Use them to search what you need to complete the combo line, or search for extra tech cards or late game bodies as per usual. On your second turn, you will be at 4 Dawn. This is where you can change a bit. Since you cannot play the 5 cost Katakuri, you try and play the 4 cost Cracker. This will ramp you 1 Dawn and set up a body that can swing next turn. Third turn, if you played Cracker, you will be at 7 Dawn. Do not play the 7 cost Pudding. Remember, your opponent needs to be at 6 Dawn for your Pudding effect to trigger off, which means in your third turn you still want to play 2 cost Katakuri, and then next turn you play the 7 cost Pudding into 8 cost Katakuri as per usual. Cracker helps a lot when going second to build that board a bit earlier to make sure early pressure can be made if needed. Starting hand. Now that we know what every single one of our cards in our deck does, and we know what our deck wants to do, the last piece of this guide is to understand which hand you want to keep and which hand you want to mulligan. If you're new to this mechanic, this is a very simple mechanic actually. When you draw your first 5 cards, you see your hand, and if you don't like it, you can send them back to your deck, reshuffle the deck, and redraw those sets of 5 cards. But you can only do this once, so it's a very valuable mechanic. Now, as always, we'll be going from the top left to the bottom right corner. First is the mulligan section. The mulligan section are 2 cards that we need to have in our hand at all times starting hand. These are the set of the both Katakuris. We already saw in the strategy that this is your bread and butter, so it has to be on your starting hand no matter what. Next is perfect additions. These are cards that not only make our bread and butter stronger, for example the 7 cost Pudding, but also set up our late game, which will make our line of combo throughout the game perfect. These are the case of the Lilins. So we want to see Katakuris, then we want to see Puddings because they make our Katakuris much stronger to drop, and then we want to see Lilins because they make our late game guaranteed strong. And obviously Mamaragan is there because he has a combo with 10 cost Lilin. And only that, he's a very strong, very powerful card overall, so we always love to see it as well. Then we have good additions. These are not cards that you really want to see, but are very good cards to help you in specific scenarios. For example, Hakai is very good into specific matchups. Cracker is very good if you're going first or second, in this case when going second. The 2 cost Charlotte Katakuri is a very good combo extender, or rebounds if you lose your Katakuris early. And then we have our generic 2k. You always want to have somewhat of a 2k to have some defense if you need to counter early. Daifuku is here as an example because not only he has double value, not only is he good as a 2k counter, he also is a target for the 7 cost Pudding, so he makes kind of our best 2k counter overall. And then finally we have our searchers. Our searchers are here simply to be highlighted, and your searchers can replace every single one of the cards that I mentioned earlier, which means if you are starting hand as a 5 cost Katakuri but does not have the 8 cost Katakuri, but you have a searcher, you still have 2 turns, up to 3 turns actually, to search for the card, so you can keep the hand if you have those searchers. The only time I suggest you to mulligan is if you have the 8 cost Katakuri, but do not have the 5 cost Katakuri, but have only 1 searcher. If you have more than 1 searcher, then the window to find the 5 cost Katakuri is bigger, but it's still a bit risky. But you can do that what you will, that is up to you. But for example, if you have both Katakuris and you kind of want to find the 7 cost Pudding, searchers will replace it, and so on and so forth. So it's a pretty simple image, pretty simple explanation, it's a pretty simple mechanic, but it's just to get that out and for you to absolutely understand your best hand. This has been the guide. Thank you so much for watching. I know it's still a very extensive guide, but I always like to dive into these decks in very good detail. So if this guide helped you, like and subscribe. There's always information that can be added up, so if you want to put some information out there, you can always comment. And yeah, thank you so much for watching once again. I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.